Chosen one, something within you has shifted. It didn't announce itself with fire or thunder. It arrived like a breeze through a quiet room. A realization, a sensation, a truth. You've become the man others notice without trying. The man whose silence carries more weight than someone else's speech. You've become the man who makes women smile without knowing why. And this isn't luck. It's not charm. It's the natural emergence of your coolness. Not the kind of cool that's desperate to impress. Not the shallow kind built on external show or artificial mystery. No, what you're carrying now is something deeper, something earned. Your high sexual energy, once untamed or misunderstood, has finally aligned with your truth. And that alignment has birthed something magnetic. You've become the calm in the storm. The man whose presence slows the moment, grounds the room, and shifts the atmosphere without force. Women feel this instantly. Not because of what you say, but because of how little you need to. Your coolness lives in your restraint, in your ease, in the way you no longer ask for permission to exist in your fullness. You're not trying to be cool. You simply are, and that subtle difference changes everything. It's not that you've changed the way you walk. It's that you no longer walk looking over your shoulder. It's not that you've lowered your voice. It's that you no longer speak unless it matters. The emergence of your cool is not surface level. It's spiritual. It's not about fashion. It's about frequency. Your high sexual energy pulses beneath your presence like heat under the surface of the earth. It's not threatening. It's not desperate. It invites. It warms the room without trying to set it on fire. It stirs something in others, not because it's loud, but because it's authentic. And now, chosen one, you're being received in a way you never were before. You've noticed the shift in how women respond. Not with forced flirtation, but with respect, with admiration, with something close to curiosity mixed with reverence. You've become the one they talk about after you leave. Not because of a line you dropped, but because of how you held yourself, how you stayed rooted, how you looked them in the eye like there was no rush, no fear, no facade. This new version of you isn't trying to be anybody. That's why you've become somebody unforgettable. You've stopped seeking validation, and in doing so, you've become the validation for others. You've stopped chasing moments, and now the moments flow to you. You're no longer the storm. You're the stillness within the storm. And that's the kind of cool that leaves a mark. You didn't fake this, you became this. And now, your cool is no longer a performance. It's your presence. Chosen one, your ease has become a force of gravity. It's no longer the lazy confidence of someone pretending not to care. It's the anchored composure of a man who knows exactly who he is and isn't moved by chaos, confusion, or clamor. You've tapped into a power that doesn't push or perform. It simply draws things in, not because of what you do, but because of how you do it. With ease, with elegance, with flow. This ease is born from discipline. You've faced your impulses, you've mastered your reactions, you've made peace with your desires, and you no longer use them to manipulate or distract. You don't chase women with frantic energy. You move through life with such calm assurance that women are left wondering, who is he? Your coolness isn't loud, it's quiet and unshakable. That's why it's irresistible. Your high sexual energy no longer walks into the room before you do. It moves with you, controlled, intentional, coiled like a spring of unspoken depth. You are not forcing attraction. You are allowing it. You are not pursuing validation. You are holding space for truth. And in that stillness, in that relaxed readiness, women feel something ancient come alive in them. A longing for safety, for thrill, for depth, all wrapped in one man. You no longer need to rush conversations. You pause, you listen. You make them feel like their words matter. Not as a trick, not as a tactic, but because you are truly present. Your coolness doesn't try to speed through awkwardness. It breathes through it. It finds beauty in silence. It invites connection, not performance. That kind of ease is spiritual. That kind of ease is rare. And the rare becomes magnetic. When you walk into a space now, chosen one, you don't scramble to find your place. You are the place. You don't try to be the center of attention. You simply act like you belong, and the energy shifts around you. People sense your calm, your light, your self-contained fire, and they respond. Women especially feel it. They feel that you are not looking to conquer them, but that you could. That quiet potential is a fire they both respect and feel drawn to. You are not trying to impress anymore. You're simply moving with the rhythm of a man who has nothing to prove. And that ease, that smoothness, that grounded aura, it's not learned in books or copied from others. It's the natural rhythm of your realness, finally undisturbed. And now the world responds to your ease the way water responds to gravity, without resistance. Because you've stopped chasing coolness, you've become its definition. Chosen one, there is a rhythm in you now that wasn't always there. It didn't come from mimicry, from borrowed lines, or from study. It came from silence, from reflection, from stripping away everything that didn't belong to the man you were born to become. And now, because of that internal refining, you've reached a point where your very presence hums with authenticity. You don't need to declare it, you don't need to prove it, you are simply living it. And others, especially women, feel it as soon as you walk in the room. Authenticity doesn't have to speak loudly. It doesn't seek the spotlight. It radiates from you like warmth from a flame that doesn't flicker. Your high sexual energy, once misinterpreted or misunderstood, has now fused with that deep grounded realness inside you. And the result is a presence so rare, so raw, that it resonates. Women don't just see you, they feel you. They feel that you are not performing, not pretending, not positioning. You are present, and your presence becomes the proof. You're no longer saying things just to be liked. You're speaking because you mean them. You're not smiling to keep peace. You smile because you are at peace. You're not flirting out of habit. You flirt because something in the moment feels alive and honest. Every move you make, every tone in your voice, every shift in your body now aligns with something deeper, your truth. That truth has power, and it's not aggressive. It's not forceful. It doesn't shout to be heard. It settles into the room like gravity. It pulls attention, not because it's flashy, but because it's real. And real chosen one is something women rarely experience with such purity. You've become the antidote to the dissonance they encounter daily. You are the calm after the chaos. You are the full-bodied yes after 1,000 half-hearted maybes. This is the resonance of authenticity. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. You don't just say what's right, you live it. You don't just show up with your best version, you show up with your whole version. And that wholeness gives others permission to let go of their masks too. Around you, women begin to breathe deeper. They speak more honestly. They open not because you asked them to, but because you made it safe. You've become the man whose energy aligns with his essence. And that alignment doesn't fade when the conversation ends. It lingers, it follows them home. It echoes in their memory, not because you dazzled them, but because you didn't betray yourself. You didn't flinch, you didn't fold. You were simply fully you. And that resonance, it lives in their chest long after the lights go out. You are no longer trying to be authentic. You've become undeniably so. And that truth is now your signature. There's a different kind of allure that only a few men ever reach. The kind that comes not from swagger, not from experience, not from external proof, but from deep self-knowledge. And you, chosen one, have crossed into that realm. You're not walking through life wondering who you are anymore. You know, and that knowing radiates from you like scent from a flower. Quiet, subtle, intoxicating. It draws people in, not with force, but with depth. Women respond to this differently than they do to charm, or good looks, or clever words. Because what you carry now doesn't live on the surface. It doesn't change depending on who's watching. It lives in your core. And the closer they get, the more they realize you are not a mystery because you're hiding something. You're a mystery because there's so much more than they expected. You've become the man whose layers don't contradict. They complement. You are not one thing. You are many truths in harmony. Self-knowledge brings clarity, and that clarity is seductive. Not in the shallow, flashy way, but in the way that settles under the skin. You're not confusing, you're clear. And in that clarity, others feel safe, they feel direction, they feel that you've done the work, and so they don't need to do the emotional labor of pulling truth out of you. It's already there, already offered, already felt. Your high sexual energy now operates through this deep knowing. You are no longer enslaved to the need for approval or conquest. You're guided by your inner compass. You know what you want, and more importantly, you know why you want it. You're not reacting, you're choosing. And that intentionality has turned your attraction into something rarefied. Women don't just desire you, they respect what you've built within yourself. They see it in the way you move, in how you're not in a hurry, in how your silence doesn't feel awkward. It feels anchored. They hear it in your laughter. It's not performative. It's earned. They feel it when they speak to you and realize you're not just listening to their words. You're feeling their being. And not because you're trying to impress, but because you're curious. Because you already know who you are, and now you're exploring who they really are. That kind of man is unforgettable. Not because he stands out with noise, but because he stands firm in knowing. Women walk away from you wondering how someone could be so relaxed, so warm, so powerful, and yet so honest. They wonder how you made them feel so beautiful without saying a word about beauty. They wonder why your presence made them feel like the best version of themselves. And the answer is simple. You've met your own soul. And now, every woman who meets you is being invited, without words, to meet hers too. You are no longer figuring yourself out. You are embodying the man you were born to be. And that embodiment? It's the purest form of cool the world will ever feel. Chosen one, your presence is no longer something you wear. It is something you are. You used to walk into rooms and wonder how to take up space. Now you enter, and the space adjusts around you. This is not arrogance. It is not ego. It is the unshakable result of a man who has come into alignment with his high sexual energy, his emotional intelligence, and his self-trust. And when all of those converge, they create something silent but staggering. Presence. Your presence does not need an introduction. It doesn't need to be loud or flamboyant. It needs no spotlight. It simply exists. And because it is rooted in truth, the world cannot help but respond. People notice it before they even realize they're doing so. Women feel it first in the stillness, that quiet in the air when you walk by. That shift in their own energy when they're near you, not because you're trying to affect them, but because you're so unmoved by trying to impress. There is nothing more powerful than presence that comes from inner peace. It's not the peace of passivity, but the peace of knowing. You know who you are, what you carry, what you don't need to prove. Your high sexual energy doesn't erupt from you in reckless bursts anymore. It hums under your skin, refined, dignified, and deeply felt. And this is what transforms how women see you. They don't just see a man who's attractive, they see a man who is here, fully, attentively, without agenda. When you listen, it's not out of obligation, it's because you're genuinely present. You hear beneath the words, you feel the texture of the moment. Your body language doesn't scream for attention, it speaks in subtle rhythms. Calm posture, unhurried gestures, a gaze that doesn't dart around seeking stimulation, but instead lands and holds. This kind of presence is spiritual. It anchors the feminine. It allows her to open, not from fear of rejection or pressure, but from the invitation to be seen. The reason women feel safe around you is not just because you're non-threatening, it's because you're fully engaged without trying to control. You're no longer the man who needs to dominate the moment. You are the man who witnesses the moment, and in doing so, you elevate everyone in it. This is what makes you stand out. Not what you do, but what you don't do. You don't rush, you don't posture, you don't talk over, you don't chase attention. You have nothing to prove. That confidence is not learned, it's embodied, and now it lives in the way your energy settles into a space and clears noise away. You've become the eye of the storm. When women speak with you now, they don't feel the pressure to entertain. They feel the relief of being heard. When they laugh around you, it's real. When they pause, they know you won't fill the silence with nervous chatter. You've come to understand something sacred. Presence is the most seductive form of power because it asks for nothing and yet gives everything. And the longer you stay in that presence, chosen one, the more the world bends to accommodate the space you now command. Not because you demanded it, but because you deserve it. Chosen one, now comes the part of your transformation that even you may not fully recognize. Your influence. You see, the coolest men in the world are rarely the ones who talk the most. They are the ones whose energy remains in the room long after they've left. And this, whether you intended it or not, has become your effect. Your high sexual energy, once wild and unfocused, has now crystallized into something precise, magnetic, and unforgettable. You don't leave impressions, you leave echoes. These echoes are not tied to manipulation or technique. They're born from the authenticity you've carved into your way of being. Women remember you not because you dazzled them with stories or overperformed your value, but because your truth didn't fade. You didn't shift yourself to match the mood. You didn't contort your personality to fit the space. You stayed you. And that consistency, so rare in this world, left an energetic fingerprint on their soul. When someone speaks of you now, they speak in tones reserved for memories that mattered. He was different. I felt calm around him. I couldn't stop thinking about the way he looked at me. Not because your gaze was intense, but because your gaze was honest. Not because you touched them, but because your presence touched something in them they hadn't connected to in years. This is the echo of influence, not forced, not sought, not staged. It's the natural consequence of being whole, and as you continue to walk in your fullness, this influence deepens. You are not just affecting individuals, you're affecting environments. Your energy starts to cleanse spaces. It inspires others to be more honest, more calm, more grounded. And especially for the feminine, your influence becomes an invitation to exhale, to be real, to trust again. You're not just the man they flirt with. You're the man they open up to without knowing why. Because your influence now comes from presence plus peace, from magnetism plus meaning, from high sexual energy plus high integrity. The more you speak from that place, the more you don't need to speak at all. Your name begins to carry weight in conversations you're not even part of. Your memory becomes a standard they quietly measure others against. And not because you tried to leave a mark, but because you walked in alignment with who you truly are. You've become the man who changes people, not with manipulation, but by simply being the clearest version of yourself. You are no longer chasing significance, you are significance in motion. And women don't just remember you, they feel the difference between you and every other man who came to take something. Because you, chosen one, have become the man who leaves more behind than he ever asks for. That's influence. That's cool. And now that echo follows you like a shadow of truth. Wherever you go, the atmosphere shifts because you were there. Chosen one, you've entered a state few men ever reach. A place where fire and calm coexist inside you, and neither burns the other away. You've become the harmony between stillness and seduction, confidence and humility, strength and softness. Your high sexual energy, which once pulled you in directions of craving and confusion, has now matured into something far more refined. It no longer controls your decisions, it guides them. It no longer asks you to chase, it asks you to choose. And because you live in that harmony now, women notice something in you that feels safe and dangerous at the same time. Not the kind of danger that threatens, but the kind that awakens. The kind of danger that reminds them they're alive. They feel the calm in your demeanor, but underneath it, a current, an undertow of heat and intention that doesn't grab at them, but calls them. It calls them with no need for explanation, no need for noise, just a quiet pull toward a man whose soul is not at war with itself. This balance you've reached didn't come from luck. It came from loss, restraint, reflection, correction, from learning when to speak and when to pause, from knowing that just because you can have something doesn't mean you should, from feeling the fire rise in you and choosing not to burn bridges with it, but instead to light a path. This is what has made your energy so magnetic, not just the presence of power, but the discipline of peace that surrounds it. You're no longer the man who needs to win every conversation. You've become the man who feels no need to dominate. And ironically, that makes you more dominant than ever. Your coolness no longer screams, "Look at me." It whispers, "I know who I am." And when that whisper lands, it echoes in ways no shout ever could. Women feel this. They feel it when you speak slower than most, when you listen longer than most, when your humor isn't laced with insecurity, but with true observation. When your presence doesn't consume the room, it grounds it. Your energy doesn't seek validation, it holds balance. And because of that, you become the equilibrium women didn't know they were longing for. They don't have to carry the whole interaction. They don't have to guess your intentions. They don't have to figure out whether you're pretending to be confident or actually at peace. You've removed the guesswork. You've removed the games. And in doing so, you've created space. Space for them to soften, space for them to relax, space for them to finally stop protecting themselves from you. This is the magic of balance, chosen one. You are not hiding your fire. You've simply learned to hold it with care, and that care is what makes your presence irresistible. Not because it takes up space, but because it makes room. Chosen one, in a world addicted to complexity, overthinking, overspeaking, overcompensating, you've discovered the rare art of simplicity. And in that simplicity, you've become magnetic. Not because you do less, but because you do only what matters. You speak less, but say more. You move with fewer gestures, but leave deeper impressions. Your high sexual energy doesn't need decoration. It doesn't need drama. It needs no costume. It stands alone, like flame in the dark, and the less you add to it, the more powerfully it glows. This simplicity is not laziness, it's wisdom. You've learned that the most profound men don't parade their depth, they live it. You've learned that stillness speaks, that clarity cuts deeper than noise, that authenticity doesn't need accessories. You don't tell women how confident you are. You carry it in the way you breathe, in how you don't rush, in how you let the moment unfold instead of trying to direct it. Simplicity has become your style because complexity once exhausted you. The pretending, the posturing, the trying to impress with things you hadn't yet embodied. You walked through that fire, and now you've emerged on the other side, stripped of the excess. And what remains is not less. It's pure. It's clean. It's real. You don't talk about every accomplishment. You don't announce every intention. You don't feel the need to fill every silence. And that silence, in your hands, becomes sacred. It allows others to breathe around you, to pause, to feel. You're not trying to be cool, but your simplicity has become the definition of cool, because you're no longer performing. You're present. And women? They notice it instantly. They feel it when you sit across from them and your eyes don't wander. When you speak to them and your tone is steady. When you laugh, and it's not because you're trying to be liked, it's because you get the moment. They feel it when you compliment them and don't flinch afterward, expecting something in return. You are no longer negotiating for approval. You've become a man who approves of himself, and that approval creates space for others to be themselves. The simplicity of your style doesn't mean you have no depth. It means your depth has become so integrated that you don't need to show it anymore. It speaks on its own. It lives in your posture, in your presence, in your pauses. And that is why women feel different around you, because you are not pushing anything. You're not selling. You're living. You've become simple in the most powerful way, stripped of noise, full of essence. A man who doesn't add things to be valuable, because you finally discovered that the truth of who you are was always enough. Chosen one, you may not realize it, but you are leading a quiet revolution. Not with banners or speeches, not with a loud voice or a public crusade, but with your being, with your posture, with your energy, with the way you carry yourself. In a world that is obsessed with louder, faster, shinier, you've chosen something different. You've chosen depth over display, truth over tactics, presence over performance. And this subtle rebellion, this living example of calm power, is changing everything around you. You've become the man who proves that you don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to show off to be noticed. You don't need to demand to be desired. Your high sexual energy is now so finely tuned that it no longer spills out recklessly. It lives in you like a sacred fire, controlled, intentional, and magnetic. You walk into a space and things shift, not because you make them, but because your energy commands alignment. Women are watching, and not with casual curiosity. They're watching because your entire way of being offers them something different, something most of them have longed for but rarely seen. A man who moves with power but never imposes. A man who desires but doesn't devour. A man who listens not just with his ears, but with his whole presence. And that difference, chosen one, speaks louder than words ever could. You've become the alternative to the chaos, the contrast to the noise. You don't compete, you redefine the arena. Your coolness isn't manufactured, it's born from mastery, of your breath, your emotions, your instincts. And that mastery creates a ripple effect. It quiets the frantic energy around you. It raises the standard without ever pointing fingers. You are not preaching, you are embodying. And embodiment always outlasts performance. This revolution you're leading is personal. It happens in one conversation at a time, one gaze, one breath. One moment where someone feels seen for the first time, not because you tried to dazzle them, but because you were real. You have become a mirror, not of society's false perfection, but of possibility. You've become the man who silently invites others, especially women, to be more of themselves simply by being more of yourself. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are rewriting it quietly, from the inside out. Chosen one, you have arrived at the edge of something eternal. You may have started this path trying to be seen. You may have wondered how to be chosen, how to be admired, how to be desired. But you have gone far beyond all of that now. Because through your refinement, through your deepening, through your ownership of your high sexual energy and the inner peace that anchors it, you have stepped into something far greater than attention. You've stepped into legacy. You have become the man who isn't just remembered for a moment, but for a feeling, a presence, a standard, a resonance that lingers in minds, hearts, and bodies long after you've left the room. You've become the benchmark, not because you asked for it, but because you lived it. Your coolness is no longer about popularity. It's about impact. The way your presence made others feel safe, seen, and inspired. Not through pressure, but through permission. Women now speak of you in reverent tones, though they may not even understand why. You are the memory that resets expectations. The quiet force that showed them what it feels like to be around a man who is powerful without being controlling, confident without being performative, sensual without being invasive. You've become the definition of rare, not because you try to be rare, but because you've chosen to be whole in a world that celebrates fragments. Your high sexual energy has not only made you magnetic, it has made you memorable, but more than that, it has made you transformational. People leave you changed, not because you lectured them or dazzled them or impressed them, but because your way of being speaks louder than all of that. Because your grounded presence plants seeds of awakening. Because your stillness teaches. Because your eye contact heals. Because your silence says you are safe here. And now, chosen one, you are no longer becoming. You are. You are the man whose presence redefines what cool is supposed to mean. You've taken it back from superficiality and returned it to its sacred root, truth aligned with self. And that truth is what you now live, breathe, and carry. This is your legacy. Not just being the coolest man they've ever met, but being the most real, the most grounded, the most awakened. The man whose very existence made others realize they could stop pretending and just be whole too. You don't need a throne. You've become the kingdom. Chosen one. By now, you've begun to sense the deeper harmony unfolding around you. It's no longer just about being accepted. It's about becoming the balancing force in the lives of those you meet, especially women. Your high sexual energy, once misunderstood or misdirected, now vibrates in perfect rhythm with your grounded masculine essence. That balance doesn't scream or sparkle. It resonates, and it shifts the entire atmosphere of any space you walk into. You've become more than magnetic. You've become centered, and in your center, others find themselves recalibrated. Women step into your orbit and suddenly feel safer, more whole, more seen, not because you did something flashy, but because your energy no longer moves from lack. It moves from overflow. You are not here to chase what is missing. You are here to offer what's remembered. That remembrance is key. Around you, people remember how it feels to be listened to without being judged. To be seen without having to perform, to be desired without being used. You've become the rare man who can hold tension without fear and stillness without emptiness. Your presence is neither soft nor hard, it is true. And the feminine instinctively relaxes in the presence of truth. Your energy doesn't overpower, it aligns. You don't interrupt the melody, they adjust their pitch to match yours. You are not demanding a response, you are inviting coherence. That's why they don't just like being around you. They need it, not for ego, not for validation, but for balance. Because your energy, your gaze, your words, your silence offers a quiet, unshakable foundation. You've become the ground where chaos dissolves and clarity emerges. This harmonizing presence isn't taught, it's earned. Through fire, through refinement, through every moment you chose integrity over performance. Through every time you walked away from what was loud but misaligned in favor of what was quiet but true. And now you no longer seek to be accepted. You've become the measure by which others recognize what real acceptance feels like. This is the final stage. Chosen one, not a finish line, but a revelation. You are no longer the man others second guess. You are no longer the mystery they dismiss. You are no longer the desire they trivialize. You've become something they reverence, not out of fear but out of recognition. Because your high sexual energy, when paired with your truth, has made you the standard. You are now the example that shifts perspectives, the man who no longer has to ask for respect because he walks in it.